Hey, what's going on, YouTube? How are ya? Good to see you. Thank you guys so much for coming by. I got a list I made of hiking alone, and I wanted to run it by you guys. I saw a video this morning, Cascade Bigfoot. Mark has made a couple of newer videos on why he's had kind of taken a little hiatus from making more videos. If you haven't checked out Cascade Bigfoot, I suggest you do so. He's got some great videos, and he kind of had some health issues, some problems with his legs and stuff, and has kind of had has been out of the making videos for a little while, but he just came back. He said his channel's not going anywhere, and I think that's great news. And thank you so much for sharing, Mark, as well. So I wrote down, he reached out to me a few months back about hiking alone, and he expressed concern to really just to be careful. He mentioned you really should arm yourself if you're not armed. And I now take his advice. I used to just arm myself when I hiked up north, up in New Hampshire and stuff like that, because of the black bear and the moose and stuff like that. I now take his advice. I believe it's wise, especially when you're hiking by yourself. When I'm out there exploring, I really should carry protection, not only from critters and predators, but from people in the woods. They can be weird, you know what I mean? You go out there and you can run into some really odd characters. Homeless people, for instance, maybe they have an encampment, you've stumbled across it. They don't want you to leave because now you know where they are. Things like that. Just some loony bins that are out there, aside from myself, out there in the woods, along with me, that I could possibly bump into, and along with a bear or a moose or something like that. It's really good to just carry something. Peace of mind, even, too. For me, a lot of it is peace of mind. But he reached out and said, you really should try to hike with somebody. And I am in the process of trying to do that. I've been in touch with a couple of people. I've hiked recently with a great guy, Chris, and his family. We had a great time, had a good hike. I hiked prior to that with another YouTuber, Kane. We went hiking, had a great time. We've hiked a couple times now. It's a lot of fun being out there with somebody. If I had the choice, guys, 75% of the time I hike, I'd wish I was with somebody. There are times I like to hike alone, and I hike on purpose by myself. And there's some reasons, and I wrote them down, and I'd like to go through it a little bit just to explain my reason why I do enjoy to solo explore. It's not because, or just because I'm a little bit crazy, but I did some pros and cons here. I made a list. I'm surprised that with the pros and cons of hiking with somebody, with a friend, actually I ended up with a lot more pros than I thought I would. Kind of convincing myself that I really need to look into a hiking partner of some sort. Just recently, this morning, as a matter of fact, a fellow YouTuber reached out, and he lives nearby me, and I'd like to get together with this guy and hike with him. I wouldn't mind actually hooking up with Chris again. We had a great time, really knowledgeable, veteran. I believe Chris was a veteran. And to hook up with somebody, I think is just a wise thing to do. Here's some reasons, guys, why I liked to hike by myself. Silent travel. To when I want to be as quiet as I possibly can, it's a lot easier when you're alone. Often I hike on a whim. This is one of the two main reasons why I hike by myself. One of them is because I hike on a whim, last minute. Happens to me all the time. I don't necessarily know exactly when I'm going to hike. When I do plan a hike, and days in advance or a week in advance, I make it happen, and it's fantastic. But mostly, even today, I'm here at a local nature preserve near my home. I didn't know I was going to have this time today to hike, and so here I am. I really had no time to call anybody. Even if I knew others that were of the same like-minded, that liked to search for a Bigfoot sign and stuff like that, it's difficult, Another reason why. I can stop anytime I want. When I hike alone, I can stop anywhere, anytime, set up a little camp of my own, make a cup of coffee, make something to eat, just kind of that thing, just to be able to do what I want when I want. Another reason, again, I can change my mind when I hike and where I hike. I could plan to go for a hike, say this coming Sunday, and have that planned all week long, and have that plan, something could mess up that plan and it changes, and I can't hike on that certain day or at that certain time. And so often I just go out and without any plan whatsoever. I carry gear with me constantly in the war room back here. I always have gear with me. Same thing with my fishing rod. I've always got gear with me, so I can actually just stop and say, oh, I like that spot, and just pull over. I don't have the option to meet somebody in a case like that. Another reason I like to hike El Solo is I don't feel responsible for the person that's with me. And that it may be selfish, and it sounds a little selfish, but when I'm with somebody, I don't feel responsible. When I take one of my kids out with me or both my children with me out on a hike, in the back of my mind, I realize I'm completely responsible for anything that happens out there. I'm responsible for them. And when I hike alone and I'm exploring all by myself, I'm only responsible for me, and that's it. Again, it sounds selfish, and I guess it is a little bit, but again, it's one thing that I do enjoy about hiking by myself. The solitude of hiking alone is another reason that I can't even put into words what it feels like to be all by yourself, miles out into the forest, and you're on your own with just what you've learned, your wits, your experience, and the gear on your back. It's just you and nothing else but Mother Nature. Another thing, being on your own like that, there's a reward I get from that when I'm get out of the woods, I'm in my vehicle, and that rewarding feeling I get that I was able to navigate out there on my own, self-sustaining, didn't want for anything, water, food, my clothing is correct for the time of year, and that's again with experience, and I'm not worried about somebody else. Another reason why I like to hike alone is my decision, and that's final. There's no conversating about it. There's no wondering, am I making the right choice? Let's talk this over. No. I can go and do this all on my own. It's my decision. I can just, if I feel like it and I get nervous in a spot, and it's happened to me before, and just turn around and skedaddle out of there, and it's my decision. Don't have to worry about anybody else. The cons of hiking solo is the same almost as the solitude, is you're completely on your own. There's nobody there with you. What you're doing by yourself. So if I get hurt or something like that, I'm in trouble. If I turn an ankle or something happens, I'm dragging my 265 pounds out of the woods, which would not be a good situation. Most of the areas I go to, there's no phone reception. 85% of the time, I have zero phone reception on my phone. So it is a little frightening at times. It can kind of smack you in the face when you're out there 2 or 3, 4 miles out, and you know you've got 2 or 3, 4 miles back. If something happens, something very simple could happen. I could fall off of a ridge, hit my head on a rock, wake up and it's dark out, and you may be confused. So much can go wrong when you hike by yourself. Another thing that would be I don't like about hiking alone is there's no collaboration. If I ever saw something or I witnessed something out in the woods, if I didn't get a picture or video of it, it basically didn't happen besides my telling of it. If I wanted to share it with somebody, it's just me, right? There's no, unless I get video or picture, what I see is what I see, and it stays right there because nobody was there to see it with me. Nobody to watch my back. There's no one there to keep an eye on what's going around. I can only see so much when I'm hiking alone. To have somebody with me to watch my six, to keep an eye on things, another set of ears, another set of eyes, that would be great. That's one of the downfalls of hiking alone. And another thing is perspective. Hiking by myself, to have that another person's perspective on things, on what's going on, how much daylight do I think I have left? I could be wrong. Things like that. To have input of another would be nice. Now I've got pros and cons written down here to hiking with somebody. And one of the things that I wrote down for pros, someone there to help in an emergency. So a lot of these pros and cons hiking with a friend kind of go hand in hand with hiking alone. And the big one is someone to help in an emergency. That would be key. Another good thing about hiking with a friend is navigational assistance. Somebody that's there that to help navigate. I may be a little bit turned around or lost. And to have someone else there say, hey, Dave, we already went down that trail. That's not the right way. Let's go this way. We haven't gone that way yet. Or the person I'm with may have the knowledge, more knowledge of navigation than I do, which is pretty simple because I have a really basic knowledge of, say, compass reading and stuff like that. Number 3 on the pros of hiking with somebody is their double the experience. I have a great knowledge of fire starting. I could get a fire going anywhere, guys. I'm telling you, I've been doing that since I was a kid. A little bit of a pyro, I guess, but I can get a fire going in pretty much any condition. If you're hiking with somebody, they may have knowledge in another way that you don't. So you're doubling your experience. You know what I'm saying? When you're out there, this other person I'm with may have much better navigational skills. Maybe they are much better at shelter building, or just in general, edible wild plants and foods and stuff like that I have little knowledge on that stuff. Let's see. Shared experience, again, is something I just touched on. Pros of hiking with somebody else, 2 sets of ears and 2 sets of eyes. Having another person there to see what I can't see, or to hear something and I may not hear it, and this person I'm with can say, did you just hear that? It's right off in this direction. It's just better. It's better having somebody else with you. And I've been talking myself into it really lately about hiking and exploring by myself, and why I really shouldn't do that as often as I do. Dual knowledge of survival of the hiking area. And I kind of already touched on that. I could be hiking in an area that I don't know a heck of a lot about, and the person I'm with may have a greater knowledge of that area, and that only helps me. So to hike with someone else, there's another great reason to not hike alone. You double your gear. You double your survival knowledge when you're out there. Conversation, learning new things when you're hiking with somebody. Like what had happened with me, and when I hiked with Chris and his family, he spent a couple of minutes at the end of the hike showing me how to basically read a compass, and it was so helpful. Just that little bit of time that he took to just help me a little bit, it just speaks volumes. I was very, very appreciative of that. So when you go and hike with somebody, you're not only bringing extra set of eyes and ears with you, you have their knowledge as well. Whatever survival knowledge or military knowledge and stuff like that, that doubles your chances of having a great exploration or a great hike. The cons of hiking with a friend. I touched on this, and I will again. Noise, conversation when you're walking and talking, and the noises you're making as you hike. Another con about hiking with someone: which way do we go? Do you want to go this way? Do you want to go down this trail? I sometimes prefer to just I don't have to say it. I'm just thinking it, and I make it happen. Another thing, this is a big deal, is the stamina of the person that you hike with. It's important that you go with somebody. If you have the capability to explore 10 miles in a day, out into the forest 5 miles and back 5 miles, if you're with somebody who can't do that, then you're really limiting your hike or your exploration. You're limiting how far you can go. And their health. I mean, do they have a bad back? Do they require special medications where if something ever happened, then you're responsible for their health or their safety? And number 5 is the last thing on the cons list, is conversation. Is that I may feel like I need to talk to, you know what I mean? I like the silence of solo hiking. I like that I don't have to talk. Do I have to explain myself to somebody as I'm hiking and stuff like that? Just a quick rundown, guys, of why I hike alone. Mostly the 2 biggest reasons. First, I don't have I don't really have the friends, a friend base that likes to do what I do, and they can't just be there right every time I want to hike. And the other reason is because I don't know where I'm going to go until I go there last minute. I don't want to be Bigfoot bait, because this is kind of what it's coming down to, is my fear now of, now that I'm hiking alone. I've been hiking alone for so long, but I'm learning more and more, and I'm hearing some crazy, just crazy stories of people, things that happen to them, dangerous, violent encounters with Sasquatch. And that weighs heavy on the back of my mind. The more time I keep going out, the more hours I spend out in the forest, makes me nervous about being a Sasquatch bait. You're by yourself. You come into an area and Sasquatch doesn't want you there. There is nothing stopping him. I'm not saying having another hiker would stop Bigfoot from tearing me into little pieces, but at least there's someone there that might could get away, right? While I'm getting torn up and been pummeled about the head and shoulders, somebody could at least get out of there and get help for me. So there's my rundown of why I hike alone. Mostly because because I don't have people around me that have the same interest. Bigfoot's not something I just bring up in conversation, at least not often. And so I hope you guys found that a little interesting. Thank you, Mark from Cascade Bigfoot, for making that video. I just saw it this morning. It was posted like 5 days ago, and he shakes his head about people that hike and go out researching alone. Doesn't understand why. And I kind of wanted to put this out there that he had reached out to me at one time and said, Dave, you got to get a hiking partner. And let me say, Mark, I'm trying. I am trying. I'm meeting up with a guy, hopefully maybe even this weekend. He just reached out to me this morning. He's near my area. And so maybe we can hook up. Maybe me and Chris, YouTube Chris, and this other gentleman, maybe we can all hook up and go out for a hike. But if I had my choice, 80% of the time I'd take somebody with me. There are those times I want to just be alone and hike by myself, but I do realize the dangers that go with that. Thank you so much, guys, for clicking. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to go on a hike here, and I didn't even realize I was going to hike today. There's things like this, why I'm alone right now. It was a whim. I happen to have the time right now to myself today, and of course I'm going to use it going on a hike. Thank you guys for clicking, and I'll definitely see you guys on the